Hello, my name is John Schaefer, and I'm from the Ministry of Sailing. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is module number 1 of the Sailing Rescue Swimmer certification. I want to let you know that the Ministry of Sailing is putting this information online on our YouTube channel for absolutely no cost. So the modules that are online will not cost any sailor any money whatsoever, and it never, ever will. That's our commitment to keep sailing safe to all of our sailors who are out there. If you have opportunities to use, or if you think that you might want to be on a vessel that might use a sailing rescue swimmer or have the need, then just contact us and we can set you up with a certification class in an area near you. We have people lined up ready to serve the community for certifications in Australia, New Zealand, throughout Europe, the United States, the Virgin Islands, and also throughout the Caribbean. So these modules, as I said, are going to be absolutely free, online version. But the certification, of course, we need to recoup some costs, pay our sailors who are going to be training and our rescue swimmers who are training as well. So we think we have it at a price point which is really going to be good for everyone. And again, our main goal is to bring everybody home. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll get into the learning objectives right now. The learning objectives for module number 1 consist of the ability for the rescue swimmers or the principal race officers to demonstrate a knowledge and understanding of the differences between a rescue swimmer and a surface swimmer. Understand terminology between crew readiness and boat readiness and the methods that maintain crew readiness. I would say the needs that might exist for the use of a rescue swimmer, whether it is a regatta, whether it's a race, whether it's an individual boat. The qualification and certification process of becoming a sailing rescue swimmer. The roles and the responsibilities that fall upon the sailing rescue swimmer. I think at the end of this module, I think if you're watching this or if you're studying to be a rescue swimmer, at the end of this module, you should also be able to articulate and understand and even demonstrate, the reasons why a certification process is important, as opposed to, I would say, creating methodologies on your own and trying to reinvent a process. And always remember that, reinventing the wheel is a problem in many organizations, and sometimes you might reinvent the wheel and it's square. So you don't want to necessarily reinvent the square wheel when it comes to safety, when it comes to the safety of people involved, when it comes to racing, when it comes to offshore passages. You don't want to, in the midst of an emergency, reinvent something and reinvent it the wrong way. And so the certification process which we have here at the Ministry of Sailing is the use of experts from the NASA rescue people. It's the last 2 learning objectives, which I think are primarily the most important, that really underline what we're trying to, I think, do here is, number 1, reasons why sailors should just refrain from trying to use unproven tactics, methodologies, trying to create things on their own, when there's a group of experts that have already tried this and done this and proven the tactics. And then the other thing is, in the midst of an emergency, there's going to be an urge to try to do things that aren't tested, that aren't standardized. So practice, methodologies, training, certification. I mean, it's very important to understand why shortcuts in the midst of an emergency can often add to another separate emergency. And when we're talking about putting a second person in the water, it's more than just putting a person in the water. It really is about the tactics, the techniques, the protection equipment, the methodologies, the policies, the procedures, the decision making. We talk about that in the entire certification process. And we want you to understand, we take this very, very seriously, but we think also that there's going to be opportunities to place a person in the water, to recover another person who can't help themselves. And it's going to require splashing a guy, splashing a lady, splashing a person to go get them, and then team will reel them back. And there's going to be no greater satisfaction that we went, we did it, we got them, as opposed to, I'm sorry, we couldn't bring them back. Yeah, I don't want to do that. The primary difference between the sailing rescue swimmer and that of a sailing surface swimmer is that a surface swimmer is pretty much a technique. It is not a trained individual. It's a technique used by a team or a vessel that any person, probably the bowman, because, God knows that they can do everything. So it's mostly going to be a technique that's going to be a person that is a longer reach to help a person that might not be able to help themselves while they're in the water. The sailing rescue swimmer is not to be confused with a surface swimmer. A surface swimmer is a person that might be attached to a halyard or another line, lowered from the deck of a sailboat in order to give a longer reach or lending a hand. The person's really never an arm's reach away from the vessel. Again, this is going to be helping a person who might be disabled, who can't get on the boat, can't help themselves. But most importantly, it's more of a technique. It's not a person. It's a technique which is used on many racing vessels today while the person is really close and near to the boat. Again, it's an arm's reach away from the vessel. At the Ministry of Sailing, we're choosing not to create our own terminology. A rescue swimmer is already a terminology used inside many industries: the military, police, rescue agencies, offshore rescue swimmers have been used in beaches around the world for many, many years. And the techniques that they have developed are very useful today for us as well. And a surface swimmer, again, is a terminology that's already used in the industry by military, police services, rescue services already. These are people that are an arm's reach away from the boat. So we're not creating anything on our own here. What we're really trying to do is stay within the industry standards when we're talking about terminology when it comes to swimming, rescue swimmers, and surface swimmers.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Charlie Victor 30, Charlie Victor 30, Charlie Victor 30. We have a man overboard. We require immediate assistance. We are trying to locate the casualty, but we do not have a visual. We require further assistance from any available craft here.
Okay, get swimmer in the water! Ready on the halyards!
In 2014, during the Clipper Ocean race, they experienced a man overboard situation. It took the team over 30 minutes to get the person back on board. They were actually lucky they even found the person when that person was in the water. And with the high performance of vessels today, it could be 20 minutes or 30 minutes even before a boat becomes under control to even turn around to come back and try to find a person who's fallen off a boat. When you have a crew overboard situation, maintaining control of the vessel is the first thing the captain has to do. And when you have 3 head sails, it could be miles before you're able to turn around to come back and find where the victim fell off the boat. In many instances, with such separation, you're going to be lucky to find the person if they don't have any protective equipment or personal protection equipment at all. And if you do find them in cold water, they may not be able to help themselves. A sailing rescue swimmer is going to be responsible for both crew readiness and boat readiness. Crew readiness involves that when the crew has a trained rescue swimmer and they are practiced in the elements of deploying a rescue swimmer to recover somebody who's in the water. Boat readiness is when the equipment on the vessel is ready to use and is labeled properly for the use of a rescue swimmer. It also includes the equipment, and the personal protection equipment is ready. It also includes that the prevention aspects of safety lines, the prevention of all the safety equipment on the boat is also an optimal working condition prior to the boat going off the shore. It is the responsibility of the rescue swimmer to ensure not only the boat is maintained to a state of readiness, but also the crew is maintained with the state of readiness as well, ready to deploy at any moment. It's a position that's certified. It's a deployable team member, responsible for the rescue and readiness of the boat, and we believe they should be able to execute a multitude of rescue operations and activities that occur on any vessel. But not only your vessel. Imagine if somebody else in the fleet, somebody else in the race, or somebody else nearby has difficulty getting people out of the water. We expect that your training would be able to help individuals no matter where they are in the world. We believe the sailing rescue swimmer will be the lead safety specialist on the boat, utilizing the handbook, utilizing the techniques, utilizing the skills you learn, honing these skills through communication with other rescue swimmers. We expect that the safety leadership on the vessel should be some of the highest that we have in the industry today. With the speeds being recognized today, sometimes well over 30 knots, just the impact alone of a person in the water could debilitate them, and their ability to even say that they're okay or help themselves might be severely diminished. I think with the current crew overboard situations and the current training that's out there, many of the older vessels that top speeds might be 8 or 15 knots, I think traditional means might be appropriate. The distance between the crew that might be in the water and the vessel might be manageable, and you may never lose sight of the person. But with increased speeds, increased performance, separation from the person in the water is going to be sometimes in a matter of seconds that you will not be able to see the person, specifically if they're behind a wave. Although throwing a second person in the water, even with all the mitigation that we might be prescribing through the course, adds risk, we believe that the risk can be controlled through training, through policies, through procedures, and through specialized equipment. And finally, there's always going to be risk. There's risk the moment you untie the boat on the dock. And in some instances, even before you get on the dock, there's risk just going from the dock onto the vessel, specifically if you're transferring from one boat to another. You can't avoid it. And whenever you send a second person in the water, there's going to be risk to that. But avoiding that risk altogether may not be the option, especially when it's your crewmate. Have you done everything possible to recover that person who's in the water? That's what you have to be able to say when you come back. We did absolutely everything we could think of. But isn't it better to say, we have done everything that we were trained to do? So the certification process provides the training that adds mitigation to control the risks of sending a second person into the water. We have had unprecedented access to some of the greatest sail events in the world, both on teams, working with teams, and alongside of teams. We have discussed these programs with many professional racers, with many people inside the industry, and more support has been given backing this project. We're creating equipment, we're creating ideas, but most importantly, we're creating ways to save our loved ones, our crew, and the people that we love the most when we race together. Today, more than ever, there is a gap between traditional crew overboard techniques and the practice of modern sailboat racing. So sailors need to refrain from trying their own thing. They just need to really start understanding what research is out there, collecting that research, and putting that into practice. And that comes through a certification. We believe the sailing rescue swimmer will be the lead safety specialist on the boat, utilizing the handbook, utilizing the techniques, utilizing the skills you learn, honing these skills through communication with other rescue swimmers. We expect that the safety leadership on the vessel should be some of the highest that we have in the industry today.
And finally, thank you for joining us on this. Please review these qualifications. This is what it's going to take in order for you to apply to become a sailing rescue swimmer. Follow us online, www.ministryofsailing.com.